Good morning to all of you. Welcome to National Resource Center, Department of Mass Communication, Tezpur University. Myself, Dr. Neel Roy, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Education, Tezpur University. Today, I am just going to talk about innovative teaching practices in higher education. Whenever we talked about the innovative teaching practices, there are a lot of issues, lot of things comes to our mind. What does innovative means and where do we stand? As a teacher, either in college or university, it is our a big challenge. We want it to be very effective in our professional life. In general mind, we consider that doctors, lawyers, the engineers, they are the professionals, but when we talked about the teachers, but we do not consider them as professionals. But the thing is, the question is, why teachers are not considered as professionals? What does makes them professionals? And what does make a teacher effective? There are a lot of factors, there are a lot of issues which help us to become very effective in our professional life. Number one, sound knowledge in discipline. To be an effective teacher in our profession, our knowledge level should be very depth, clear, whatever discipline we are in. Second, we must have professional training. But this is the unfortunate part to the higher education of India. The teachers, they are not having any kind of professional training. So third, professional skill. To be an effective teachers in our own profession, we must have some professional skill. Professional skill will help us to become professional. Fourth, innovative pedagogical knowledge. To be an effective teacher in higher education, if we do not have the professional pedagogical training, we cannot become professional. But if we see the doctors, engineers and lawyers, they are professionally trained in their own discipline, so they can claim as professional. But teachers, somewhere we are short of or we are lack of such pedagogical knowledge, and as a result, maybe we are unable to claim ourselves as the professionals. Pedagogical training for teachers. You see, in India, we give the professional training for secondary level teachers, primary level teachers, in the name of B.Ed, D.El.Ed, etc. And also particularly teacher education department, we give the M.Ed degree. These are known as the professional training for teachers. But professional trainings are not given in higher education. But in the name of training, we are giving some sorts of short-term training program like orientation programs, refresher courses, etc. Status of pedagogical training for teachers in higher education system in India. It's our assumption that those who are postgraduate in their own discipline, they do not require any kind of pedagogical training. Only in the name of recruitment or in the name of selection, we give one kind of national level test like NET, SLATE. Based on this test, we recruit them and we test their pedagogical knowledge. Some questions are given in that NET and SLATE examination, and based on that we select them. Pedagogical training for higher education in the global scenario. If we talked or if we see some of the developed countries like UK, then the Norway, and then any that new European countries, they have the compulsory pedagogical training before entering to the higher education. But in India, we do not give this kind of pedagogical training as compulsory basis except orientation program that too after recruitment. Present status of teaching, learning and pedagogical practices in higher education. If we go through the present practices in higher education level in India, we see what are the basic practices we follow in higher education. There are some common teaching techniques or teaching methods which are very common. I mean, most of the teachers, in all the disciplines, they are following such kind of lecture methods like lecture method, ICT based teaching, group discussion, project based work, field visit and case study. These are very much common thing, and the lecture method is wide range. It is being used by almost all the teachers, and which is known as the face to face teaching. And some of the teachers, they use ICT based facilities also, but again there are some limitation. There are some institutions are found, those institutions are not fully equipped with the ICT based facilities, and as a result they may not be. And group discussion, many subjects, many teachers, they follow the group discussion, but that is also occasionally. Some subjects are there where group discussions found to be very effective, but some subjects, some topics are there where group discussions are found ineffective. And again the problem is group discussion is very difficult to conduct, especially in the large group of the classroom where large number of students are there. Project based work, it is also restricted to some of the subjects, especially the science subjects, or in some social science subjects they can follow the project based work, but some subjects where this method also very difficult to use. Then field visit or case study method also restricted to some of the subjects. So these are some of our regular practices, current practices, which are going on in our higher education system. Analysis of pedagogical method of teaching. If we analyze the present practices, what is going on, this may be considered as a traditional methods for teaching. We find that it is pre-technology education context. Here the teacher is the sender of the code source. Here the teacher gives the knowledge, he sends the message to the students. The educational material is the information or message. So the teacher gives the message. What is that message? The message is the course materials, or we can say the syllabus, or we can say our curriculum. The student is the receiver of the information. In our present practices, the method which we are following, where students are they are the receiver. They are receiver of the information. The deliver method, basically we follow the shock and talk method. Most of the teachers, we still follow shock and talk method. Then also some cases overhead projector. In such lecture, students assume a purely passive role. Here the students are inactive. Students remain as passive listener. Hardly they become active in the classroom, and in such situation, it's very difficult to be concentrative in the classroom, maximum 15 to 20 minutes. After that, their mind will be diverted to some other areas. To some of the limitation of our traditional this teaching methods, such as teaching in classroom using chalk and talk is one way flow of information. In shock and talk method, or in lecture method, or in face to face method, this is the one way of giving the message. And though some scopes are there, but we hardly follow that, means receive any kind of message from the students. Teachers often continuously talked for an hour without knowing students' response and feedback. In this traditional method, teacher is to give the lectures hours and hours, we hardly bother about the students' response, whether they are receiving, whether they are knowing the things, whether they are getting the informations or not. We do not consider that. The material presented is only based on lecture notes and textbook. How the teachers are giving this lecture method? Definitely they are also being prepared based on certain course materials and syllabus or textbook. So they are preparing lectures based on their text and materials, they are giving the same lectures. There is insufficient interaction with students in classroom. In traditional practices, interactions are the interaction scope is very less. More emphasis has been given on theory without practical and real life time situation. Teachers, most of the time teachers also compelled to complete their courses, to complete their syllabus. So they mainly they focused in their course, in their syllabus only. So hardly they are connecting with the real life situations. Learning from memorization but not understanding. What we want as a teachers, we also want that whatever lectures I have delivered in the classroom, students should remember it, they should memorize it, and they should express it, or they should write as an answer in their examination. But we do not give any scope or little scope to the students for their understanding. Innovative method of teaching. So when we talked about the innovative teaching of method of teaching, innovative method of teaching will help us to become very effective. So here I'd like to mention some of the important quotes given by Confucius. What he said, that there is a belief that if I hear, I forget. If I see and I believe, I do and I understand. So when the students will do the things actively, either in the classroom or outside the classroom, with their teaching materials or with the syllabus or course materials, they will understand it. When they will understand it, it will retain forever. Teaching in 21st century. Teaching learning process in then and now is totally different. 21st century, why it is different than our ancient time? In 21st century, with whom we are dealing with, we have to see that the students, their level of understanding, their mental maturity, the surroundings, the facilities available around them, all these things we have to take into consideration. Then we should teach, then we should give them the lesson. Teaching in the 21st century is an altogether different phenomenon. Never before could learning be happening the way it is now. Everywhere, all the time, on any possible topics, supporting any possible learning styles or preferences. Nowadays, it's a very common or it becomes very easy to get the information, to get the resources from our surroundings. So when the students get the information or the knowledge, whatever required from the other sources, so it becomes a challenge for a teacher. But what does being a 21st century really mean? So where the definition of teacher in 21st century has become little bit changed. Now we do not we consider teacher as an facilitator, but teacher has to facilitate. Teacher need not to teach in front of the students, rather they should facilitate. So how can you become the good facilitator in the classroom? So to become good facilitator in the classroom, certain qualities or certain characteristics a 21st century teacher must possess. So some of the characteristics I have just mentioned here. Number one, the teacher should be learner centered. Initially, or in our ancient time, the teaching was teacher centric, means teachers were the main source of knowledge. Whatever teacher used to know, they used to communicate it, they used to deliver it in front of the students. Teachers were considered as the source of all knowledges. But now the situation has changed. Situation has changed that teacher is not the only source of all sorts of knowledge. Rather, there is every possibilities to get the same knowledge from the outsources. And sometimes it may so happen that students may also become the source of knowledge in the classroom itself. So, we should give the importance what students want, what is their requirement, what is their level of understanding, what is their previous knowledge. So, all these things should be keep in our mind. If the students want, or if the students we should teach as per the students' requirement, that becomes the learner centric. Otherwise, what will happen if you follow the same traditional method, that teacher centric education, then the students will not listen to you. Second point, teacher must have these qualities, that student as producer. So, here teacher has to involve the students in their in their teaching learning process. Means you are not the only person as a teacher to produce the things or output. Rather, you should also involve the students as well, to means jointly with the students you have to produce, that is the students as producer. Second, third, learn new technologies. As a teachers, we should keep on learning the new technologies what is coming up. So, new technologies will help us to become effective in our classroom. There are a lot of things every day. New research has given us some of the new technologies, new softwares, new instruments at the field, in the field of ICT, which may help us to become very much effective, and that is a requirement also. Go global. Go global in the means teacher should not be restricted within the institution or within the classroom itself. Rather, he should be conscious about the global also. What is happening outside? What is happening in some of the best universities or best institution across the globe? So, all these things should also be known by the teachers. If you are updated with all these information, latest updates, what is happening in global perspectives, that will help us to become an effective teachers. Next, be smart and use smartphones. There was a time we used to restrict the mobile phones or the smartphone in the classroom, but nowadays it has become an important part, essential part, in the classroom. We can make the smart classroom as an important component for learning. But the thing is, proper instruction, proper observation, proper training, proper orientation should be given to the student, so that it can become an important part. There are a lot of softwares are available which can be downloaded, which can be used through the smartphone, and which will help us to become the smart in the classroom itself. Next, blog. So, this is the age of internet, where teacher should use, or teacher should create their personal blog. In that blog, teacher can upload their ideas, their presentation. Student can also upload their ideas, presentation, their questions. All these things can be uploaded in that blog. At personal level, they can give the message, they can give the lesson, they can communicate whatever they wish to the students. So this is one of the latest technology that can also be used by the teachers. Go digital. So this is the age of digital era, where whatever we teach, whatever we do, it should be in digital form also. Whenever we will teach something through digital mode, it seems to be more effective, it seems to be more, you can say students can retain the things, or they can record, or they can preserve it, in different ways, either through software or other ways. So digital way, we can become very effective in 21st century. Collaborate in the sense, collaborate doesn't mean the collaboration with the other institutions only. Collaboration can be also done with other department. Within institution also, if some departments are doing well in some of the aspects, so one department may collaborate with other department, one institution may collaborate with other institutions. So in that way, you can become smart, you can become very effective. Sometimes we can invite the teachers from the other department. If basically in interdisciplinary subjects, in multidisciplinary subjects, we may found some of the experts in some other department. So we can invite them, or we can collaborate with them, that whenever requirement arises, so we can invite and they can help us. So collaborations will help us, and that mindset should be there with the teachers, that I should not be isolated, rather I should be collaborative with other department, other subjects, other institution as well. Project-based learning. This may be considered as old as well as new also. Project-based learning, we can learn, or we can involve the students in this project-based learning very effectively, because project-based learning, where the student has to do the work, student has to perform their own work, here the teacher has to become the simple observer or guide or instructor, you can say. They will just simply give the guide, or they will observe the situation, and students will be active part in that project things. It learns a big concepts, a complex concepts may be distributed among the students, and students can do their work in their own groups. So when the students will do the work in project, the group activity, the group feelings will also be developed. Next, build your positive digital footprint. When you are teaching in 21st century, so as I have already mentioned that the digital way we should teach, we can conduct examination, and we can evaluate also digital way. We can deliver our lecture also digital way. By recording our lectures, we can deliver it. So I will talk in the next the slides, that how that digital, that flipped classroom, the way of flipped classroom will help us to become the digital. Then the next point is innovate. As a teacher, we must be innovative, and all of us are a little bit creative in our own profession. To become professional, to become effective, you have to be innovative. Innovative in the sense means you have to do the research work in your own classroom with your own students, that what is your students, what you are, how can you teach them better. You should innovate something. There is no any ready-made techniques, ready-made method which will help always. Rather, you should innovate some of the things, some of the concepts, some of the techniques, some of the skills which are very fruitful, which are very useful in your class. keep learning. In 21st century, if you want it to be very effective, very professional, then keep learning. Whatever latest ideas, latest concepts are coming, you should learn, you should keep on learning all these things, and which will make you smart in the class. Now I will talk about some of the efficient teaching methods and procedure in higher education. So these teaching techniques can be considered as the effective, and some of the techniques are being used since a long time. Even then, the utilities of those techniques we cannot ignore. So some of the things I have mentioned here. Number one, frontal teaching. Frontal teaching, where we can it can be considered as our lecture method or face-to-face teaching, where face-to-face teaching, this though it is very old, but it is very effective. We cannot ignore it. That lecture method, it has lot of benefits, it has lot of positive aspects, but proper way you should do it. It's not that all the time you should follow the lecture method in the classroom. Rather, by using lecture method, you can involve the students, you can incorporate some of the recent techniques, recent skill in your classroom, but you should know that. Next method, that is interactive lesson. Your lesson should be very much interactive. If you want it to be effective, you want it to be very much efficient in the classroom, you have to be very much interactive with the classroom. Interactive means student has to be part of your lesson, part of your teaching. How you will be interactive? So I will show some of the skills in the next slides. Next method is demonstration with exercising. Demonstration with exercising, that some of the things, you should not say that this is the thing, the lecture way only we cannot show. Rather, you have to show it in the classroom. Demonstration you have to show. Mainly the practical based subjects where practical skill are required, like science, then mass communication, then some of the subjects where skills oriented, some skill we want, there we can show some of the skill through demonstration. Guided conversation. Conversation is, every students, each students wants, they love it, but what way you will allow the conversation? It should be guided that conversation. You should guide, or you should instruct, or someone should be there to guide the students, give the direction. If the discussion or if the conversation goes in other direction, so you have to revert back and you should give the proper instruction that your discussion should be in this direction. So it is very much effective. It will give the scope to express the students' ideas, their views, their creativity in the classroom. Discussion, it's very effective all the time. If you make the classroom discussion oriented, teachers will be free, they will express their ideas freely in the classroom, and they can share their ideas. Teacher also can share the ideas, and which will be very friendly, which will be very effective, and that discussion or the knowledge will be retained for a long time. Debate can also be considered one of the very effective teaching techniques in the 21st century. Debate, usually in debate, two groups we forms. One will be in favor and another will be in against. So by making these two groups, the student will argue on particular topics, and when they will argue on particular topics, lot of positive things will come out, as well as the weaker points, the negative side also, that what way it is not going to help us, that will also come out. So debate may also help in greater way for our teaching learning process. Showing video materials, some of the things. Start will go. Okay. So another important method in higher education we may follow, that is the showing video materials. Often students become very interesting to see some of the materials in live. We may discuss some of the issues, we may discuss some of the events, we may discuss some of the points or the situations, that will become more effective if you show some of the live materials, live videos. Those kind of things are available nowadays. So you have to be little bit, little bit explorative. You have to explore such videos. You have to show it in the classrooms, and that will give, you can say, if you can, they will create lot of that motivation, and that will give lot of interest to the students, and they will see, and that may make your class very effective. Then brainstorming, one of the very effective techniques can be considered brainstorming, and especially in higher education we must follow it. Especially in social sciences, we can use these techniques in a greater way. Mass communication, any other social science subjects where a lot of burning issues are there, which can be picked up and it can be given to the students, and they will discuss, they will argue, lot of discussion may be conducted with proper guidance. Program teaching also very effective, very scientific. Lot of research has been carried out on the program learning, and it is found that program teaching will help the students to remain active the entire session for entire programs, and that will give lot of ideas, that will give to use their own creativity, so in that way program teaching can be used. Distance learning, another techniques. So why I am mentioning the distance learning, nowadays distance learning has become very wide and popular, and a lot of issues, lot of things are being taught in the distance mode. So we can get help through distance mode. So I am not talking about the distance degree only, and through distance mode, lot of examples may be given here. Online teaching, online teaching can be considered here. Then integrated or interdisciplinary teaching. Interdisciplinary teaching refers, now the social science, most of the social science has become interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary by nature. So if you invite the people or the person or the expert from the other discipline in your own areas or in your own subjects, that will give more interest to the students. Ultimately, your subjects will be more effective. Then problem based teaching, some of the problems may be identified and it may be given to the students as their homework, as their classwork, as their assignment work, as their field work, different way it can be given to the students, but problem should be identified, it should be given to them, and that will help them to develop their qualities. Then field classes, then excursions, trips, this can be also considered as one of the teaching methods. Some of the things can be learned directly from the situation, from the the place, by visiting that place, practical experiences they may gather from that places, that may be one of the effective methods. Workshops may be carried out, and many departments they conduct the workshops. Then the role play can also be used in the classroom. Case study, often we use it, and especially as a dissertation or project work, we give some of the case study problems to the students to do the in-depth study, and it's research based methods, so that may also help. So I have discussed some of the efficient techniques, teaching techniques and procedure which are at present going on, or teachers may follow these techniques in future also, and these are very effective, these are research based, and if you follow it, then your classes would be more effective and beneficial for the students. In my next lesson, I will talk about some of the innovative pedagogy for modern era. Thank you.